I'm Yasmin Gagne.
I'm Josh Christensen.
And this is Most Innovative Companies. On today's episode, Fast Company Associate Editor David Salazar on the anime streaming service Crunchyroll.
They're not going broad the way that, Netflix does. They're going deep. If you really want to get into it, you can with Crunchyroll.
Clinical psychologist and social media sensation Dr. Becky on her Good Inside app.
The idea that adults can change and transform in big ways without understanding their past, I can just say to me that doesn't make sense.
And as always, keeping tabs.
They're huge on TikTok right now, and it's just the weirdest possible thing.
But first, here's the download, the news you need to know this week in the world of business and innovation.
First, we've all accidentally sent a text to someone it wasn't meant for. Yes, I'm sure you have.
Oh my God, never
up
forget.
Friendships.
I heard that a friend got dumped, and I accidentally texted said friend and was like, Abby got dumped.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Well, as bad as you felt then, you didn't feel as bad as the high-up cabinet-level national security team who mistakenly added the Atlantic's Jeffrey Goldberg to a group chat on the encrypted chat app Signal. I'm sure everyone has heard about this by now,
this was so
but
crazy.
It does not continue to be the craziest story. The subject of the chat was the U.S. strike in Yemen that targeted Houthi rebels. The accidental leak may lead to an investigation regarding what other top-secret chats have taken place on Signal, which, while collecting minimal user data and encrypting chats from end to end, is still an entirely inappropriate place to discuss concrete national security plans.
In less DeJoyful news.
Yes, keep it. Love
Postmaster General Louis DeJoy resigned on Monday, effective immediately.
But also the implication that the last news story was joyful.
I couldn't make it work. In more DeJoyful news. Anyway, DeJoy was at the helm for major changes at the USPS, including firings and the cancellation of contracts, moves which drew criticism from Democratic lawmakers who had demanded for years that he be fired. Last year, the USPS lost $9.5 billion as the total mail volume continues to dip to record lows.
And the new Postmaster General, Hulk Hogan.
Louis.
I say that, and for a second you were like, wait a second, is it?
Louis DeSad.
Louis DeSad. Oh my God, that'd be great. All right, next news story. Move over, Tesla. There's a new kid in town. That was written for me, so I read it with as much gusto as possible. Chinese vehicle manufacturer BYD reported a 2024 revenue of $107 billion, nearly $10 billion more than Elon Musk's Tesla made in the same period. This comes at a time of slumping sales for Tesla, as well as demonstrations and vandalism at Tesla dealerships across the U.S. in protest of Musk. It should also be noted that BYD cannot be sold in the United States.
I know. Wild. Speaking of cars, Waymo, the autonomous vehicle company owned by Alphabet, announced plans this week to roll out its Waymo One ride-hailing service to Washington, D.C. in 2026. I'm always suspicious when companies announce plans that far out.
Yeah. It's like when you try to plan a birthday party more than 3 months away from the birthday.
Well, do you remember? I feel like I was in college and they were like, they'll be flying cars by 2024. Big lie. Big lie.
It's why I'm skeptical of all weddings.
Yep. As a precaution, until the tech is worked out, Waymo ride-hailing will be suspended during snow or icy road conditions. Over 4 million rides were completed by Waymo One vehicles in 2024.
And finally, DNA testing company 23andMe has filed for bankruptcy and will try to sell itself under court supervision. We did cover the company's struggles last summer, I believe, right? With Ainsley Harris. Go back and listen to that episode. We'll put it in the show notes here. Its co-founder and CEO, Ann Wojcicki, has also resigned. Once valued at $6 billion, the company had never turned a profit. All of this leaves the question of who will gain access to the trove of DNA data the company has stored. In 2023, as a reminder, hackers stole the biometric data of 6.9 million people, which was almost half of the customers they had at that time.
In fairness, did anything happen to that?
I don't know. Well,
anyway.
Listen, we don't have all the information here. So
have you done 23andMe?
I have not done 23andMe.
I think we talked about that in that episode. Anyway.
It would just come back.
Yeah, I don't really care.
Just a picture of Wonder Bread. The privacy concerns extend beyond individuals, though. The risks are grave for biological relatives of customers as well.
And that's the news you need to know today. Josh, what is the worst or craziest thing you did as a kid?
The worst or craziest thing I did as a kid? I was pretty good as a kid overall. I did have some anger issues when I was 7 to 10. I would say it wasn't extreme. I had 2 older siblings.
You just yell
a
lot?
They teased me relentlessly. It would yell a lot. I would flip. I was a family game night board flipper. We played this game.
That's so
I was
sad.
just
That's so sad.
My siblings
oh my God.
would tease me so much. And so my parents decided for a good game, we're going to get this basically version. It's sort of like a knockoff of a Chinese checkers style game called Aggravation for their 2 older siblings who teased and bullied the youngest sibling with anger issues. Let's have them play Aggravation.
That's so
as
good.
a game.
And you used to flip the board?
I remember flipping the ball, marbles everywhere overall. Yeah.
And your parents were like, Josh.
Joshua Gary!
That's so good.
What about you? What did you do?
I really didn't do anything that bad.
I was hoping you'd have a villain turn right now where
no,
you're just
I will say the funniest thing
I was
I
in
did,
juvie for cutting a guy.
The funniest thing I did was I was a really moody teen.
That
and
tracks.
when I was 13, I cried a lot and basically said I was running away from home. But our rental house had an electric gate and I forgot to take the keys. So I just cried and stormed over the gate. And my parents were watching and just laughing at me. And I didn't know what to do because it was too high to climb over.
That's so funny. What country were you living
I was
in
in
at that
Brussels.
time? You were in
Yeah.
Brussels.
So I still remember, my parents bring it up all the time. They're like, this was the funniest thing we've ever
so
seen.
funny. That's so funny. I love that.
So the reason we're talking about our childhoods and a little bit about acting out is because later on in the episode, we speak to Dr. Becky, who's a clinical psychologist and social media sensation. She developed a method for basically dealing with kids who are acting out called Good Inside. But first, we're going to talk about Crunchyroll. If you're like me, you probably can't begin to count how many streaming services you're subscribed to. And other than the content libraries, there's really very little differentiating one from the other. That's part of what makes Crunchyroll, an anime streaming service, so unique. Here to tell us more about Crunchyroll and why it made Fast Company's 2025 Most Innovative Companies list is Fast Company Associate Editor David Salazar. Welcome back to the show, David.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
In our Most Innovative Companies issue, you wrote about Crunchyroll.
Yes, I did.
What the hell is Crunchyroll?
So, you'd be forgiven for not knowing. It's an interesting name. It is an anime streaming platform.
You're telling me it's not sushi? Sorry, that's such a bad...
Real bad joke there.
You wish. No, and it's actually kind of been around for a long time in different forms. It actually sort of began in 2006 as a pirate site. People would upload fan subs, and we'll get the parlance out of the way. Dubs, meaning they've dubbed over the voices. Subs, meaning they're subtitled.
Oh, okay.
So they would,
Gotcha.
people who, literally old anime heads would need to know Japanese, find a way to, get the broadcast of the anime shows, and then, rip it and fan subtitle it themselves, then upload it to Crunchyroll.
I'm sure it was always incredibly accurate.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. But now it's the main streaming platform for anime, largely in North America, US, but also growing globally too.
How did you get into Crunchyroll? Because you've been a fan for a while.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I watched a little bit of anime as a child, right? I watched Pokemon, I watched Yu-Gi-Oh!
You ever watch Sakura Card Captor? That was mine.
Not as a child, but
I did not know that one at all.
Cardcaptor Sakura's cute. She's girly. And...
Yeah, it was very popular in Belgium.
Oh, interesting. Well, there were the mainstream when as a 90s
Yeah,
kids,
yeah.
Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z,
Yes, yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh.
Quite underrated, I think.
Yu-Gi-Oh's great.
Jinx.
Gundam, is that another one?
Yes, yeah.
Ronin Warriors was one I was really
I don't
into.
remember that one.
I'm not actually sure if that's an anime or if that's out of Korea.
Which
Anyways, Ronin
Anyway.
Warriors. Anyways, doesn't matter.
beats me.
So when
It's
did you become a fan?
sort of casually. I mean, part of it is like my fiance Beth. He was an animation student at one point and like got into that, but got me into it because he was into like watching animation. So movies like Akira, or rather Akira is how the actual way to say it. A lot of the Miyazaki movies, although those aren't technically anime. And then shout out to our college classmate, Charlotte Murdashaw, who just needed someone to talk to about the anime she was watching and encouraged me to watch it.
So the company was acquired by Sony in 2021. Was this post or pre-acquisition?
I don't think I got a Crunchyroll account until like mid-pandemic, so like on the cusp there.
Tell me about the size of this thing. How does it compare to Netflix? What do subscriber numbers look like?
Compared to Netflix, it's like a drop in the bucket. It's 15 million subscribers, and Netflix has 280 million subscribers, but those 15 million people came in very recently. So like in 2021, it had 5 million subscribers, and now by the end of 2024, it had 15 million. So it's growing very quickly, and they're really focused, not just in, like I said, the US, but like really focused actually in like Southeast Asia and India. They're starting to add subtitles and dubs in a ton of languages to try and capture a global anime audience.
And not only are they global, but they're pretty young audience too.
Very
which is
young.
valuable.
Yes, yeah, super young, super diverse, super loyal is sort of the thing. Especially in the US, they're way more diverse and young than the median person, and they're just huge anime fans. So like, if you give them what they want, something they've added recently is like not just airing shows concurrently while they're airing in Japan, but like last year they started doing it at the time that it's airing in Japan.
That's commitment. Oh my God. If you're a US viewer, that's like,
Yeah,
you
like
gotta
a
be sick in the
real
head a little
crew
bit.
simulcast. You got to be a big anime fan.
Do they mostly have like an inventory library, or are they producing their own content as well?
It's a little bit of both. So they license and distribute a lot of anime, but they also then work with a lot of partner studios. They own a studio called Aniplex. So they have some originals. One of the more notable ones to come out in the past few years is one called Solo Leveling, which actually was an adaptation of a Wattpad series.
Wow.
And so because that's more of a Korean thing, they sort of bought the rights and brought it to Japan and gave it to a team of Japanese animators, and that's been a big hit for them. Solo Leveling.
MIC company synergy there.
Exactly.
So on the list, we recognized it for turning anime fandom into an ecosystem. What does that mean?
So, like I said, all of these anime fans are super loyal, and also it's sort of, if you're really into it, Crunchyroll is not just the streamer you go to watch your anime, because a lot of streamers have anime, but it has the most current anime, it will have the simulcast, but then it also will have a ton of extra content and stuff that is built around it, right? So they have, at the end of 2023, they added a library of like 3,000 music videos of Japanese artists and also live concerts.
Is it like a simulcast? Like they'll have a live concert? No.
No, they just sort of have, have the recorded concerts that you can watch on demand. They also do theatrical releases. So whether that is a movie length episode of an anime. I went to go see the Spy Family movie last year.
Is that like Spy Kids? Is that off-brand Spy Kids?
the espionage children.
Spy Family's great because it's about this
Espionage.
like it's espionage. Obviously the name's Spy, but like it's about this guy who's doing an espionage mission and he has to like find a fake family and for his cover, and so he adopts an orphan, and unbeknownst to him, the orphan is psychic. And then he finds a wife, and
Anime
unbeknownst to
fucking
him,
rocks.
the wife is an assassin. So,
The
That's
plot
so
lines
good.
are just
That's
so
so
maximalist in every single way.
yeah. But yeah, so they do theatrical releases. They'll do, obviously, shows like Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba is a big one. They've got a theatrical
Wait,
release
say that
coming.
again?
Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba.
You
That's the
pronounce
full
that
name.
very fast. You're committed.
Yeah.
I've been steeped in Crunchyroll to write this story, trust
my
me.
God.
I've never watched Demon Slayer, much to Charlotte's chagrin, though. So full-length anime movies of the sort of tentpole series like Demon Slayer, like Spy Family, like Haikyuu, I think is one of them. But then they'll also do like concert films. So it sort of is a way to really deepen the connection with all these people. Like, they're not going broad the way that, like, Netflix does. They're going deep. They are offering all of these sort of Japanese culture-focused things or anime culture-focused things that if you really want to get into it, you can with Crunchyroll.
And since the acquisition by Sony, the company's been able to have some, I hate to use this word, synergy with Sony Music Entertainment, right? So I'm looking at these numbers. They're kind of crazy when it comes to music.
Yeah, and that's what I was mentioning earlier, sort of bringing on the music videos and live concerts. That's been a big part of it. But also Spotify recognizing that there's a big opportunity for music from anime, created like an anime hub last year. And part of that is like Crunchyroll has its own little dedicated section. The thing about anime is that a lot of the budget of an anime will go to the opening and closing credits. So that's where you get the best animation, but it's also where you have like a notable artist, a J-pop artist often, doing a song. And those can sort of take on a life of their own, and people sort of get into J-pop or Japanese music more broadly through anime opening and closing titles.
Do you have a favorite opening or closing title? Are you a J-pop fan now?
It's not J-pop, they're like Japanese rappers, but there is an anime that was airing last fall and winter called Dandadan. The other thing is, like, these are all really bad names, like just like the titles are terrible, and like the artist names are always weird. So the title is by a Japanese hip hop duo called Creepy Nuts. I know, and the song is called Otonoke, and it's really, really good.
諦めろ悪やからあんたらなんかじゃたばらってもかなわんクワバラクワバラクワバラ何も止まらん速さくたばらんたまらん下がらん押し通すわがままそこだけには邪魔だ俺はもう一人のあなたサラちゃんカヤちゃんワンサカ読みの国ワンダラごき途中になんだが4時44分もあったら4尺4分4分様がカメラジャパンから呼ぶ声がしたんならもう一人お疲れ様や
I'm actually a big fan of one Japanese artist. He's like a hip-hop artist named Najabis. I feel like a lot of dudes in college really liked him. He died in a car crash, I think.
Oh my
Wow,
God.
that took a turn.
But he's like legend. His one album is so good. Anyway, I'll send you guys. We can play some here.
The
maybe.
only J-pop artist I know is Lisa.
Isn't that Korean?
There's two.
Oh,
There's
So
two.
there's
Lisas, yeah.
Lisa from Blackpink, who's in
Yeah,
White Lotus.
yeah.
And then there is Lisa, who's a J-pop artist. And actually, to return to the Crunchyroll sort of going deep situation, they're underwriting a tour for Lisa this year. I
How
think
do
in
they
the US and Europe.
differentiate? How? I
Well,
wonder if it's a
J-pop
branding
Lisa
thing.
is just spelled with more capital letters.
Yeah, it's capital L, lowercase I, capital S-A,
A pure millennial
Insane.
core.
which
there.
is
Insane.
not easy to Google, it turns out.
I had a Japanese friend in 7th grade who loved a band similar to was it Sweaty Nuts? What's it called?
Creepy Nuts.
Creepy Nuts.
She was a fan.
Sweaty Nuts. I'm sorry, House of Yes.
This isn't Doge yet.
She was a fan of a brand.
Big balls and sweaty nuts.
She was a fan of a duo called Kinky Kids, and she had all their merch.
Yeah, they always,
Oh no, you
they've
can't
always got
wear
very
that.
strange names.
So I am curious, have you seen examples of mainstream services attempting to pursue kind of similar content or growth strategies? Because we've seen Netflix go broad, as you mentioned.
Yeah, totally. I mean, Netflix has been investing pretty heavily in anime, as has Amazon, but Netflix got sort of a bit of a coup last year. There's a very popular manga called Dungeon Meshi, or Delicious in Dungeon is how it's translated often. And it's good. You guys, I just want to be clear. All of these names are not
I'm
selling
sure, I'm
how
sure.
good these shows are, if you're into it.
Creepy Nuts. You will
Creepy
never
Nuts.
Creepy
tell
Nuts,
me I'm
Delicious
creepy.
in Dungeon. My favorite, actually, sorry, this is a digression. My favorite one I watched, there's like a subgenre like of manga and then anime called Boys Love, where it's exactly what it sounds like they're gay for each other.
Oh, yeah.
That's cute.
There's one that I watched called
Better than Creepy Nuts.
Cherry Magic ! 30 years of virginity can make you a wizard. And
I feel like this is a title on Quinn Erotica.
and it's about this guy.
We've lost the plot.
Sorry.
Yaz is checked out.
He's never had sex, so he's psychic.
That's
So
where
when-
I got my powers.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's so good.
So when he touches people, he can hear their thoughts. And that's how he finds out that his coworker is into him, and then they become a couple. And then eventually he loses his psychic ability.
And
I'll
then
let
is he
you
like, we need
figure
to
out
break
how.
up? Or they already, oh.
We need to
I guess you
find
can't
my
get it back.
virginity.
No.
You can't get that shit
I'm
back.
sorry. In anime, you can go on a quest a la Dragon Ball when you die, and then you have to go travel along the dragon to be reincarnated or something like that. That was a plot in Dragon Ball Z
That sounds about
when I
right.
was a kid that I still remember, and I was like, this is weird.
Anyway,
but
we
anyway,
need
to
to get
return to
back,
the original
yes.
question, Netflix has invested. They've gotten a lot of exclusive anime like Delicious in Dungeon, which has been a big hit and obviously was super popular and did well for them. Prime Video also has done some original anime. But one way that Crunchyroll is very clever is that it sort of flips that effort from mainstream streamers to get in on the anime action by licensing the anime that it has licensed to the streamers. So, for example, the show Jujutsu Kaisen, all the previous seasons sort of have existed on Crunchyroll. It then licenses it to Netflix, who has all the previous seasons. But when the new season came out, only Crunchyroll had them like day of.
Sorry, I'm still shook by Boys Love. But, we've seen some live action adaptations. Didn't Netflix try and do like Cowboy Bebop that didn't really
There's also One Piece.
pan out?
Yeah.
Tell me sort of the status of that and how Crunchyroll fans feel about it.
That I'm not sure about. I think generally I find it super lame when companies take something that works as an animated thing and then try to make it live action. I think that like Cowboy Bebop was a bit of a flop because it's such a classic anime and people love it. And like, what are you going to do?
The Snow White of manga, if you will.
Yeah. So yeah, that is sort of to mixed success, but they certainly are trying to get in on showing the anime and investing in original titles that, sort of give them a little bit of an edge when it comes to Crunchyroll. But Crunchyroll is still sort of the place you go if you really want to watch the thing that's coming out as it's happening, as it's airing in Japan.
Tell me a little bit about its theatrical release strategy. You mentioned earlier that they do theatrical releases. What does that look like?
It's not huge numbers of theaters, but it'll be specific ones and sort of almost like a Fathom event type thing, just like special screenings of them throughout the week. They've been sort of keeping a level. Last year was about 9, I want to say, theatrical releases.
Yes, that's correct.
And that sort of does okay for them. But that's not like a capturing people sort of effort. It's a fandom play. And you get people who will go in cosplay or whatever. And you get people who will go just because they really like the series, or maybe they want to, like, you're not going to get someone who's like never seen anime to like really go to those. But to return to your question about synergy, Sony recently bought Alamo Drafthouse, and as that acquisition is closing, both Rahul Preeny, the president of Crunchyroll within Sony, and other Sony executives on earnings calls and in interviews have said that there's a pretty obvious sort of synergy between those two properties, right? Like, if you have Alamo Drafthouse, which is for huge movie fans and keeps them engaged in fun ways, and you pair that with, say, the Demon Slayer movie, you really have an opportunity to deliver for the super into it anime fan, and that is a loyalty play, and it's a using all of your resources play, which Sony's very good at.
So I want to talk a little more about that. It strikes me that anime is kind of a different than other genres, maybe more similar to fantasy, where you can live like a fully anime life. You know what I mean? You can dress up as an anime all the time, and you can play your anime mobile games. And how is Crunchyroll capitalizing on that? It seems like they're working on mobile gaming, for example, and there's sort of different free and freemium tiers. What does that look like?
So I guess the way that they would talk about it is that, like, it's called like the top of the funnel, right? Where everyone's coming in and you're trying to get them into the subscription service. To hear Rahul talk about it, mobile games especially are sort of a top of the funnel thing because everyone's playing mobile games, and if you have a lot, sort of, you can flood the market, and even if it's like not even really related to the anime, you get people playing a mobile game, they might watch the anime, they might go to Crunchyroll. Crunchyroll does have like a free ad-supported tier where you can watch a ton of older episodes for free with ads, but then if you want to watch like newer stuff, or if you want to watch exclusive stuff that's exclusive to Crunchyroll, then you'll have to pay for one of their paid tiers.
The last thing I want to ask about is Crunchyroll is developing a manga reader app. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I actually don't really know the difference between anime and manga, so you're going to have to break that down for me and then tell me more about the app.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I should have done that sooner. But so, like, manga is, and I feel like I'm really putting a little Midwestern twang on it. I think it's manga if you're a big fan.
Oh, I apologize.
But no,
manga.
I mean, I say manga all the time.
Manga.
But so, so manga's like the comic book version, right?
Got it.
And that's where most anime starts. Like, it sort of is a pipeline where a really popular manga will be turned into an anime. Very rarely do you have sort of like an anime coming out of whole cloth, if at all. So the manga reader play is clever because it, again, is a way to get deeper into Japanese culture. If you've watched the anime on Crunchyroll, maybe you want to go back to the source. I think Dan to Dan is a great example of that. That's a newer series, but that's got a really hefty manga library. Like there are a lot of issues of Dan to Dan. It's sort of a fun, accessible one. You get them to return there. Or what I think the hope here is that like people engage with this manga reader app, which is going to sit separately from Crunchyroll.
Mm-hmm.
I think they used to have a manga library and it just like was not very good. It sort of sat on a weird part of the website, but now they're sort of giving it a dedicated space. And so that is a way to have them engage with the manga, and that's a boon for Japanese publishers. But then also, if they're engaging with a manga that doesn't have an anime adaptation, Crunchyroll can see that. They have those analytics. They can share it with their studio partners, and they can say, hey, do you think this has legs? Maybe we can develop this anime.
So smart.
Very smart. And they're like, it's not quite vertical integration, but it's pretty close. And Sony also kind of has a lock on vertical integration with that. So there's a very popular PlayStation game called Ghost of Tsushima that is being adapted actually into an anime and a live action thing, which I'm kind of crazy. But the anime is going to be exclusively on Crunchyroll, and they're also going to work with a lot of Sony artists to sort of bring that music for the first time. So Crunchyroll sits within the Japanese arm of Sony Music, but for the first time, they're going to be working with sort of like the global Sony music ecosystem to bring Western artists more into the Crunchyroll fold and into the anime world.
I think I was just reading an article where somebody involved with the Scarlett Johansson Ghost in the Shell was like, we need to make a sequel. I was like,
I don't think you do.
Remember that interview where she was like, I could play a tree. What's wrong with me playing a Japanese person? It was like,
Well,
Yikes.
anyway.
as far as I know, there aren't any trees in SAG.
No, there's Groot.
Groot is kind
Well,
of a
that's
tree.
Vin
I don't
Diesel,
know.
isn't
Really,
it?
Ents. There's Ents. People who played Ents
Ents?
in Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah.
The tree folk.
Yeah. No,
Treebeard?
I know what you're talking about.
Ents. No, I need to explain this further.
This is an anime.
Please mansplain Lord of the Rings to me.
So the thing about Lord of the Rings is,
Well, David, thank you so much for talking about Crunchyroll. We'll be back with David for keeping tabs, but first, a quick break, followed by our conversation with Good Inside's Dr. Becky. Dr. Becky Kennedy, a New York City-based clinical psychologist who coaches parents through difficult moments with their kids, has created a booming business centered on the notions that kids essentially are good people. That insight, which Kennedy developed into the Good Inside method, has turned Dr. Becky from prominent psychologist into a celebrity status parenting guru. When COVID hit in 2020, Kennedy joined Instagram to dispense advice to parents struggling with their suddenly trapped at home children. Dr. Becky, as she's known on social media, became a social media sensation. She currently has more than 3 million Instagram followers and a growing presence on TikTok. In the meantime, she spun her Good Inside brand into a best-selling book, a podcast, and a subscription-based app, which launched last year and uses generative AI trained on Kennedy's writing and videos to give parents personalized, specific advice to deal with situations in real time. The Good Inside app, which costs $276 a year, now counts more than 50,000 members. Dr. Becky, from what I understand, pre-COVID, you did not have Instagram, you had a private practice, and it was mostly with adults. Is that fair to say, or had you already started working with families and children?
I had definitely started working with families, so some of that is accurate. I had a private practice, and I had kind of 4 different categories maybe of sessions. I had adults for therapy. I'd see them weekly, sometimes twice a week. I'd see couples for couples work. I'd see teens And then I had seen young kids for child therapy and play therapy in grad school. But by the time I got out of grad school, I realized that the piece of that work I liked the best and that I felt like almost move things forward the fastest was actually work with the parents and equipping them with the tools to help the environment shift a little bit and honestly to help them feel more resourced to manage whatever was going on with their kid. And so that was the fourth category, which was kind of parenting work, I would say.
That makes a lot of sense. I heard you on a different podcast and you were describing how you came to your practice theory. I don't know the best way to put it. You talked about the sort of theory of like, part of me feels this way, part of me feels another way. I mean, just tell me broadly kind of how you got there and what the overarching theory of good inside is for our listeners who haven't read it yet.
Yeah. I think this all came together to me in my private practice because of the nature of the different appointments I'd have. So I'd work with adults, people like me or you. And, I always felt like there was always one thing that was true about everyone, regardless of the things they came to talk about, which is the patterns and kind of the circuitry that were put in place in our bodies to protect us and help us adapt early on start to work against us in childhood. Right? A lot of our early childhood adaptations, ironically, become kind of, quote, symptoms, right? Oh, why don't I trust people? And I'm so hypervigilant. Well, I don't think I was a baby who was born that way. So what did I learn early on that made me kind of untrusting or hypervigilant? And then I used to always tell adults the circuits that were put in place to protect us are hard to unwind. And we want that to be true because our body thinks it's helping us. So I would kind of work with adults in helping them understand, well, let's figure out why you do these things you do and why they're hard to change. And that doesn't let you off the hook. That's actually the first step because we can't intervene before we understand, or we have to understand before we intervene.
But you are very practical.
Very.
You have a very like practical practice, right? You're not just like, let's understand this. You're like, we need to do something now, right?
I think there's like this split in psychology. People are like, I just want to change. I don't want to talk about my past. I feel like it's like a tennis player being like, just make me a better tennis player without understanding why I'm not hitting the ball over the net. You'd be like, that's actually going to take you a lot more time. Like, let me look and figure out what's going on. And then change can actually happen very quickly. The idea that adults can change and transform in big ways without understanding their past, I can just say to me that doesn't make sense. But that doesn't mean I ever had someone laying back, smoking a cigarette, just complaining about their parents. Because to me, we want to understand our past to have personal responsibility to change our future. So that was the way I was working with adults. Very practical, down to the, okay, so given what we understand, here's what you're going to try today. Here's what you're going to do as an experiment. Here's the way you're going to make yourself just uncomfortable enough to know you're building a new circuit. Here's what you're going to say to yourself. I mean, like so concrete. And my way of working with adults in practice, I feel like I did. I kind of started getting a lot of referrals. People were like, this is actually finally helping me after years of working all these different ways. I felt really good about that. But then I'd see parents of like a 4-year-old. They'd be like, my kid is hitting and I don't know what to do. And I would say to them what I was taught. Okay, well, we're going to do a timeout and let's take away their dessert and let's give them a sticker every time they don't hit their friend. Okay. And then I just pictured like seeing you in my practice and you being like, I yelled at someone at work. And if I was like, give me your phone. No phone for a week, Yaz, and no dessert.
Yeah.
And by the way, yesterday you didn't hit, like, here's a sticker. I just feel like you'd look at me like, really? Like I'm taking advice from you? Why would taking away my phone help me stay calm? I think you just made me feel worse and I'm supposed to act better. Like nobody would come back to my office, but we've been doing this to kids for generations. And I think we have this split. Either I'm punishing my kid and I tell myself that's kind of being in charge, even though, again, no good CEOs I know make employees better by punishing their employees, or I feel like I'm being permissive. Good inside is truly an approach for someone who can say, there's got to be a better way than those two extremes. I need to own my parental authority. We actually help parents do that in a much better way than punishing, because that's honestly just a sign of desperation, not authority. And we actually help kids learn the skills they need to learn to have better behavior. And big picture, nobody learns skills by going to their room. I just don't know a 4-year-old who's like, oh, let me search up on the interweb what to do the next time I'm mad so I don't hit. And no,
Yeah.
a 4-year-old is feeling ashamed. They now feel like a bad kid. Ironically, their feelings are going to be harder to manage and they're more likely to hit tomorrow. It doesn't even make sense. And so good inside separates who you are from what you do, not to let you off the hook, but to provide a foundation to build skills to improve behavior for good.
Before I sort of get on to your presence on Instagram and how the app grows, just to get a concrete example here in that situation, right?
Great.
Your 4-year-old hit someone
Yes.
and you don't want to send them to their bedroom, right? Because as you explained, you don't want them to feel, ashamed of themselves. What do you advise a parent to do there?
Actually, my primary goal around why I wouldn't send them to their bedroom is I actually just want them to stop hitting. And I am the CEO of a company. If someone was late to meetings every Monday, I just can't imagine. I'd be like, you're not getting lunch today. I would go to them and I'd be like, hey, you know the importance of being on time. And so let's figure this out together. So let's get concrete. So what would I do? First, and this is so important, we have to set a true boundary. I would go to my kid and I would say, I'm not going to let you hit. And when I do that, I'd actually hold their wrist or get in between them and the other kid. This is the opposite of what a lot of us do as parents. And I used to do it. Okay. Stop hitting. Or we do something so weird. Yeah. I'm going to count to 3. It's like, why am I counting to 3? Like, who said that was a good idea? It doesn't make any sense. I would never say, I'm going to count to 3 and I hope you don't run into oncoming traffic. I would just not let my kid run into oncoming traffic. So that is what I call setting a boundary and embodying your authority. I'm going to say, I won't let you hit. And I would literally stop the hit or even pick up my kid as a 4-year-old and carry them away from their brother, sister, friend, whatever. And then this is key after I set a boundary, I'd say something to stay connected to my kid and see the good inside them. Hey, something was feeling hard. Or, hey, you're allowed to be mad. Your sister's playing with your favorite truck. And let's figure out another way you can communicate that, right? And now I hear parents already. They're like, my 4-year-old's not going to understand. No, they will understand. They'll understand that you set a boundary to stop them from acting out. They finally feel like they have an adult in the room keeping them safe. And they'll understand that you're looking at them like they're a good person having a hard time, not a bad kid doing bad things. Just like we always can feel in our hardest moments, whether someone's looking at us like we're a monster or like we're in need of help. And that difference is massive.
The way you use boundary is so interesting to me because something I can't stand is when people use therapy speak to effectively like be a jerk. They'll be like, I'm setting a boundary here, which means I actually can't make dinner tonight. You know what I mean? And you're like, wait a second. That feels very different. Whereas what you've explained, the boundary you're setting is really just your own actions.
Thank you for highlighting this. Yes, this is a line I hear a lot. I don't know if you do, is he doesn't respect my boundaries.
Yeah.
Right? Or I hear this with kids. Like I set a boundary and my kid's not respecting it. And always with the parent. Again, I actually believe the issue here isn't the parent. Like we're told we should be able to parent naturally. Of course, they don't know what a real boundary is. Nobody took this course in high school. I mean, it should be a course, So whenever I hear that, I often think someone has an incorrect definition of a boundary. That's all it is. Because here's my definition of a boundary. And I truly think it's life-changing whether you're a parent or not. Boundaries are something you tell someone you will do, and they require the other person to do nothing. So often we say we're setting a boundary when in fact we're just making a request. So if I say to my kid, stop hitting, and then parents will say, but I set the boundary. You made a request, your kid happening to not cooperate with this request. A boundary is something you tell your kid you will do, and it requires them to do nothing. Hey, I'm going to walk over to you, and if things aren't calm by the time I get there, I'm picking you up and I'm carrying you to your room because my number one job is to keep you safe, and hitting isn't safe, and you're clearly not capable of making good decisions right now because you're out of control and you're a 4-year-old and you have an underdeveloped brain, right? I'm not going to actually say that, but that's kind of the theory underneath. But it's the same at work. Setting a boundary isn't saying I'm on a Zoom meeting, like, stop interrupting. And I definitely wouldn't say, I'm going to count to 3. I'm going to count to 3, Yas. And if you don't stop, I'm taking away $5 from your paycheck. No, what I would say if I really thought this was an issue is, look, this might be awkward. I need to run this meeting and we need to get through the agenda items. And if it's still really hard for you to keep your thoughts inside, I am going to mute you. So again, I'm saying what I'm going to do. And then I actually have my power back as a parent and a CEO instead of being dependent on a 4-year-old or a colleague dictating not only my mood, but the success of my intervention. I like to give parents really their power back, which is what happens when they learn to set a true boundary.
I think this is in the workplace as much as it is in social life, where I can see a parent being like, I'm going to literally hold you to stop hitting your friend. And then they look around and there's other parents on the playground who are like, what the hell is she doing? You know, or you're in a workplace and you're a CEO and you're like, I do feel like I need to model some strength here and maybe I look soft. You know, how do you deal with that kind of relationship?
Well, I think you're asking a bigger question. And I think that question is, how much of my time do I spend in other people's brains thinking about what they think about me? And how much of my time do I spend in my own brain gazing in and thinking about what I want and need? I think that's actually kind of like the life question we all need to ask ourselves at all times.
Yeah, I was going to say that question probably says more about me than about...
Well, by the way, I think that question is on a lot of people's minds. And it's so interesting. What we're saying is, I'm going to judge my intervention on the playground based on what some random mom might or might not be thinking. And in doing that, what's really sad, and this is what happens, I think, to a lot of us women, because we're trained to gaze out before we gaze in, is I don't even really know what I want to do anymore. And so I look at random mom. I don't even know her. I obviously can't hear her thoughts. I'm making them up, and then I'm judging what to do with my kid based. I mean, so there's a couple things about that. Number one, I think one of the biggest things we do at Good Inside, and this is the secret, because someone said it to me, I don't even think you care about kids. And I was like, whoa, hold your horses. What are you talking about? And she was obviously being cheeky. She goes, I think you get parents' attention through whatever latest struggle they have in their home. And then what you really do is you actually empower parents to just be the best, sturdiest, most healed version of themselves, which then, of course, is the most important thing you could do to help your kids. And I think one of my favorite phrases, and I think it's actually core to Good Inside in our approach and how we lead at work too, is 2 things are true, right? I can set a boundary. My kid can be upset. Both of those things are true. And I said, can't 2 things be true? I care about adults and I care about kids. But she's right. She's right. And I think we actually have parents all the time who say, I came because of my kids' tantrums on the playground. And what I got was thinking about other people's evaluations of me less often. And I think that journey is actually the journey we bring parents on. And it doesn't happen overnight. But it does happen. And our best members in our app, when we ask them, what have you gotten from Good Inside? They name 10 things before they even talk about their kid. And we're like, what about the tantrums? What about the defiance? What about the sleep issues? And they say, oh, not only is that stuff better, I don't dread the next thing. Is it weird that now I almost look forward to the tantrum at the playground because I actually know what to do?
Yeah, you're like, it's my time. Yeah.
Right, because you know how, like, I mean, I always talk about pilots, and one day a pilot's going to say to me, like, Becky, you don't really know what you're talking about. But I imagine the best pilots don't feel confident when they've had a perfectly smooth flight. And they're not dreading turbulence. The best pilots are like, I know what to do if there's turbulence. I know how to handle tough landings. And ironically, when you get through tough turbulence or tough landings, you feel more confident as a pilot than you would if you had a year of the most perfectly smooth skies. And to me, that's again what feels amazing as a parent. You're no longer dreading. You know what to do. You have clarity, and you actually find your wins in the moments that used to send you spiraling about what other people thought about you.
Let's talk about you getting on Instagram, first of all, because I feel like that was the genesis for a lot of things. I mean, tell me about the impetus for it. It sounds like it happened during COVID. Like, what was going on there?
I mean, it's really so nuts when I think about it, and all this combination of like years of work and random luck, right? There's like always, I mean, and luck sounds, that's the wrong word because nothing about COVID was lucky, but like just timing of it, you know? So this thing had been building up in me in my private practice. I know the way I'm working with adults and couples. I'm watching adults change their lives. And that is that complete theoretical opposition with everything I was taught to tell parents to do with kids. And then I started to see it. Oh, we create issues in childhood and then we try to solve them in adulthood. And I'm just always focused on efficiency. So beyond that feeling bad to kids, I've always just thought how inefficient, right? And when I noticed this, I couldn't kind of unthink it. And I think what led to Instagram was just more people need to know this. More people need access to the type of education that you get in every other job. That's the thing. That's even bigger picture than our approach. If I had a friend who said to me, I'm such a bad surgeon. I'm such a bad surgeon. And then I just started digging in and they were like, I never went to medical school. They say it comes naturally. I have a surgical instinct. I would say to her, okay, you might have a surgical instinct. That is the reason you should go to the best medical school. And then I really mean this. If she's like, no. I listen to some podcasts here and there and I get my tips on Instagram. I'd be like, oh, okay. Well, still feel like you deserve a system around you. You have the hardest job in the world. Okay. I'm not a surgeon, but I would imagine that's very hard. Parenting is the hardest job in the world. And we are sold, I hope this is an adult audience, we are sold this bullshit narrative that we should have a maternal instinct and that it should come naturally. The only thing that comes naturally in parenting is how you were parented. And then I looked around and I was like, there's a million companies and a million innovators and entrepreneurs. And yes, technology is now being used to solve a lot of the world's struggles and make certain things easier. Where's the technology for parents? Where is the education and the technology so parents say, I feel like I have the best parenting coach in the world in my pocket. I shouldn't spiral after I yell at my kid. It shouldn't be a mystery what to say when my kid comes home after getting in trouble at school. We have information at our fingertips for so many things except the thing that impacts every human, how we were raised, and the next generation of adults who will take over this world. And I think that's when I said, this is not just content. This is not just an approach. This is a revolution where we're saying parenting deserves education and parenting deserves innovation and something technologically sophisticated. So we no longer feel so alone in this incredibly important job we have.
So tell me about developing the app. At what point did you raise money and how does the app work or how do you hope people use it?
Yeah. So, this was all so organic at first. And I remember the day, I actually remember I was talking to a founder friend. I've had so many amazing founders who've really taken me under my wing and taken me under their wing. And I've gotten so much help. And I remember, this is going to sound nuts. I'm almost embarrassed to say this. I remember being like, wait a second. There's paid ads on Instagram. And they were like, Becky, what is wrong with you? Yes. They're like, what do you use Instagram for? We grew completely organically. And it almost was amazing, my ignorance, because what happened was this movement. This is movement first, everything else second. Parents have basically told us along the way what they want. And I really believe we're just serving it up for them. And so we knew from parents, there was a group saying already, no. Out is the maternal instinct only narrative. We want education. We want to learn the things. We've taken learning seriously at every point in our lives, and now we're going to stop. No way. Give us education, give us access to experts, and give us access to each other because we need to know we're not alone. And kind of at good time, we're like, okay, we're going to create this ongoing experience. And the reason, from a business model, someone said to me oh, so it's a subscription. I was like, oh, that's not the first thing for us. You're a parent with kids living in your home for 18 years. There's always things that come up. No one masters parenting. You don't master yoga. We just want to be with people on their journey, right? So that's how it's set up. And then what happened as we grew, I think within the first year, we had members within 50-something countries. Now we have members in over 108 countries, even though we're still just English speaking. This is so global. And what we heard from parents is, okay, during COVID, I was like, I want more and I want you to talk to me for a long time. And and now it's like, I'm on the go. I need advice for me. And I have a very specific situation. It's not just hitting. It's hitting, and I just had a baby, and I have a really judgmental mother-in-law, and I'm about to go to a wedding next week where I need my kid not to hit when they're the ring bearer. Like, I was like, okay, so it needs to be so personalized.
Mm-hmm.
And when I have 5 minutes, I want to feel productive. So I was thinking about all that. And it was at that point I said, okay, this is not just this web-based content membership. This is really a digital product.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Duolingo has made it possible to learn languages in a digestible, fun way. We want parents to have a way to kind of learn the language of parenting. Because if you want to parent differently than how you were parented, it is like a new language. So you need repetition and fun. And in a different way, you also need something for you. You
Mm-hmm.
need to know you have an emotional home base for you to come back to so you can be that emotional home base for your kid. And so I think at that point, we said, this is like a huge aspiration. This is a whole ecosystem for parents.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to look at the members we already had and say, we're doing this big time because you deserve it. I want to hire the best people in every single thing that they do because I want parents to say, we have the best product in the world. And so we raise money in a way to kind of say we have this really sturdy foundation that was about 2 years ago. And we knew we wanted to take this kind of web-based experience and make it more in your pocket, more kind of personalized, and AI and what that was possible in terms of giving people what I would tell them, but hyper personalized to them, to those incredibly specific situations. I remember thinking, that's amazing that I live in a time where we can do that. Let's do that. My friends joke, one of the best things about being friends with you is I can vomit what happened in my day,
Mm-hmm.
and you can just say, here's the one thing to do. And I realized through our AI, I can now do that for millions of parents around the globe.
Question you must get. Is it maybe too late for me to either change
Ugh.
my kid or for me to change myself?
Ugh,
You know what I mean? How do you answer that?
I'm so glad you asked that question. Okay. So as you can tell when I'm asked a question, I have trouble answering it directly. Okay.
That's fine.
But this is one question. If someone's like, is it too late? I'm like, no. And they're like, I didn't even tell you how old my kid is. I'm like, no. That is one of my most deeply held beliefs. I remember when the TED team, at TED conferences, I'm so honored. They were like, do you want to do a talk? I was like, absolutely. Oh my goodness. They said, why don't you take your time and think about what you want to talk about? And I said, I know. And they're like, how do you know? I said, repair.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about repair. That is what my TED Talk's about. If anyone looks it up, everything in our app, in our membership, in our company is actually based on the belief that it is not too late. We underestimate how much our bodies accept repair. They are looking for connection. We are all looking for the compassion and understanding that we never got. And to me, the proof that it's not too late, and I like proof, is I think about any of us as adults getting a call from one of our parents and saying even something vague, like, hey, I think there were a lot of times growing up that I might have just sent you away or just judged you quickly. And those moments, honestly, they weren't your fault. I think I didn't kind of get the resources I needed. And I just wanted to say, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And nothing specific, just that. I don't know any adult who wouldn't take that in.
Yeah.
And wouldn't say that made a difference. And so if you think about your kids, well, inherently, mathematically, my kids are younger than I am. That's always true. And their kind of circuitry is less well developed. So if a 30-second call from one of my parents would have some impact, to me, that's all the proof I need to know it is not too late with my kid. Now, your other question, I actually think, again, is what we're even better at Good Inside. I think when parents say, is it too late? They're kind of saying, is it too late for me?
Yeah.
Like, have I lost the ability to stay calm, to feel good about myself, to feel confident that I can handle hard challenges with uncertainty? And that's where, like, any parent listening or any adult, the first thing I would do is just want to give that person a hug. I know it sounds cheesy. So they can feel, I guess, the strength of my conviction in saying, no. Now, will the journey be easy? Will everything change tomorrow? No way. But as long as it takes for our circuitry to build, doesn't take that same amount of time for it to unwind. We need a guide. We need some powerful ideas. We definitely need some practical, actionable strategies and mini experiments. And again, I think that's what I'm most proud of at Good Inside. I think we change a parent even more than their parenting, which says a lot because we really help them with their parenting.
What's coming next?
There's a lot of different things that are coming next. I think one of the things that's coming next is thinking about all the different kind of states a parent is in. This is the thing I'm most excited about. Honestly, as humans, it's not just parents, but let's just talk about parents. I think we have red, yellow, green. Red is like, I'm a 10 out of 10. Kind of like, my kid is screaming for an hour. What do I do? And we have very specific needs in that state. We don't want to lecture. We don't want anything long, right? That's a red state. And then we have a yellow state, which is kind of different because at that point, I'm like, why does my kid in general have big, it's not just about the water. One time their green shirt was dirty and also a huge thing. Kind of like, what's going on there? And then we want to really work through something, not just one small thing, but we kind of see a pattern. Now, what I've noticed with parents, and this is where I get really excited, is parents tend to cycle between red and yellow all the time. I have a crisis, then I'm kind of managing a problem, and then I just have another crisis and I'm managing a problem. I also believe there's this green state, by the way. Green state is not some like state of zen. I've never had that.
Yeah, that's sort of what I figured it would be.
No zen. That is not a thing. But green state is when I've figured out yellow instead of just waiting for the next red. What if in green state, I actually learned how to set boundaries? What if I learned how to tolerate people being upset with me? What if I learned how to take care of myself so I'm not so resentful and reactive all the time and then yell at my kids because I feel like I'm running myself into the ground?
Yeah.
What if I can do tiny things, and I mean like really, really manageable, like under 2 minutes a day, that make it less likely for me to be in yellow and red? When we spend our time in yellow and red all the time, our nervous system never gets a break and we're depleted and exhausted. We don't even realize we're spending time yelling and screaming and doubting ourselves because we're just used to spending our time that way. So we don't account for it.
And I think when you get into a state like that, and I am guilty of it, I feel like and I am not a parent, but I feel like that's where I live. But it's easy to not even think of the other person because you're so busy. Like anytime there's a crisis, you're like, oh my God, I'm working so hard. Like I worked through my whole weekend. And it's like the other person doesn't give a shit. You know what I mean? And that's not how we're going to get out of the situation.
Yeah. And I think parents often say to me, like, how do I not scream at my kids all the time?
Yeah.
And right. Okay. And what I always say is, to me, it's like someone saying, how do I not fall off the cliff when my car is at the end of the cliff? And I'd be like, well, all right, like I can kind of help you, but how about we just figure out how to exit the road earlier before you get to the cliff? Like when you feel like you're living on the cliff all the time, that is so hard. And so I think what's next is showing more parents how to get there. I think we squint in the distance and we're like, I see a version of myself that I want to be. And I know she exists, but I don't really know the road. I really believe we can help people get there. And that's what I'm most excited about.
Great. Well, Dr. Becky, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, we are back with David, and it's time to wrap up the show with Keeping Tabs. This is where each of us shares a story, trend, or piece of pop culture we are following right now. And David, since you're our guest, what are you keeping tabs on?
This isn't necessarily pop culture related, but more something in the wheelhouse of things I cover. Is I'm very interested to see what random things the FDA is going to be cracking down on. And
Poppers, baby.
Yes.
Oh.
And I say that because the most recent sort of situation is that the FDA has been rating companies that make poppers. These, like, technically they're sold as, like, video head cleaners or, like, industrial solvents, like nail polish remover.
Why are they cracking down on VCR cleaner?
David, what is a popper? Just kidding. Don't.
And
so yes.
And Fast Company contributor Henry Chandonnet had a really good story about what's happening and sort of how it could very well be motivated by our wonderful Secretary of Health and Human Services general not understanding of how disease works. And like in a fairly recent book, he mentioned how he's pretty convinced that poppers, which are done as an inhalant, by people caused AIDS.
Yeah, that's like that's an old chestnut of a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, well, he's got a ton of them,
Yeah.
and he now has the power to activate the FDA against companies that do these things. So that's something I'm interested in. I think they're also cracking down on whippets, which has gotten out of hand, if I'm being honest. But, I'm very intrigued always to see what our wonderful brainworm secretary is up
What
to.
the worm is telling him this time.
We gotta go after the poppers. The worm has problems with it.
Josh, what are you keeping tabs on?
Have you all seen the Maryland Foodie Boys on TikTok?
Yes.
No.
Other
They're
places?
like tweens who review food, and their critique is just like, yeah, Taco Bell's like good, bro.
Have you ever had what's your favorite pizza topping? It's just cheese. I just do cheese. It's four boys from Maryland. I think they're all like 12, 13. And they have a podcast called the Maryland Foodie Boys. Although I don't actually know if it's released as a podcast or just cut up into social clips.
That's so good.
They've blown up. It's just these 4 kids, and I honestly don't even understand the appeal of it at this point. It's like a really weird, lame thing. They don't have anywhere near the Riz of the Rizzler or the Costco Boys, but they're huge on TikTok right now, and it's just the weirdest possible thing. But there is one kid who they call McLovin on it, who is the breakout star of the Maryland Foodie Boys.
Well, if Christopher Mintz-Plass's career is any indicator, he's not going to go very far.
Hey,
Listen,
Chris Mintz-Plasse.
he burned bright.
He did.
And then he ended up on Stars on Mars.
Oh my God.
What is Stars on Mars?
You haven't listened to Who Weekly enough.
It's a crazy show that was on Fox last year where a bunch of random non-celebs at this point, like washed up people. Lance Armstrong was there.
Oh, that's a choice.
McLovin was there.
Joe Jussie was. It was in Special Forces.
Oh my God, with Tom Sandoval.
Oh my God, Tom Sandoval. McLovin should end up on the real McLovin, not the new McLovin who's coming for his bag, should end up on a season of The Traitors. That'd be great. That's my take. I think that would be a great casting.
I did see a take on the Food Boys, or whatever they're called, Foodie Boys.
Maryland Foodie Boys.
That they've already sold out. Like, they've already done a Spawn episode for Taco Bell.
Oh, yeah, no, they're doing all Spawn right now, and those parents are just raking it in. There was also a clip of them playing, like, basketball together, and, like, they can hoop. They're actually, like, very good basketball players. I was like, what is happening right now? Very strange. Anyways, Yaz, what are you keeping tabs on?
Cursed couple alert. Tiger Woods is dating Vanessa Trump.
Oh my God, I
Oh my
saw
God.
this. And I'm looking at the Daily Mail tab you have open on your computer right now.
It's so dark. I saw rumors of this before it came out because I am a Daily Mail reader, committed Daily Mail reader. And that documentary about him was like really sad to me because he was just like, he seemed to be such like a fun kid whose like parents were just like crazy tiger parents.
Yeah.
And it's like sad to see him clearly in so much pain, but still playing golf because his Nike contract and
Yeah, his body is destroyed at this point.
not great.
It's
yeah. Anyway.
Well, cheers to the happy couple.
And that's it for Most Innovative Companies. David, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I will try to have normal sinuses the next time I'm on.
I'm excited to go back to our desks and listen to some creepy nuts.
They're good.
And that's it for Most Innovative Companies. David, thank you for joining us. Our show is produced by Avery Miles and Blake Odom, with help from Sam Gebauer and Hawa Otori, editing by Matt Toder, mix and sound design by Nicholas Torres, and our executive producer is Josh Christensen. Remember again to subscribe, rate, and review, and we will see you next week.